Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Persuading for Profits. This is the podcast that gives you the skills, the tools, the strategies, the techniques you need to go out and crush it in your sales and marketing career. My name is Brent Hoodenpyle, your host. Big shout out to radioupdate.com and Andy Meadows and all the crew over there for hosting us and sponsoring us. Radioupdate.com is your one-stop shop for all things radio industry on the internet. So check them out. But otherwise, we're gonna get rocking and rolling with our show today. We have a great guest with us here. He's and Martin. I'm gonna read your bio as Grok says who you are. According to Grok, Martin Messier is an integrated solopreneur, sales strategist, and seasoned entrepreneur with over 2 decades of hands-on business experience. Martin founded and scaled Toco de Empada, a successful chain of Brazilian bakeries that opened 5 stores in just 3 years and sold millions of empadas. I want to hear what goes into a good empada, so we will be diving into that with Martin. We will be drawing on his background in NLP. Martin trained with Tony Robbins, real-world scaling and customer journey design. He now helps creators and service providers build momentum-driven businesses through unconventional approaches like the ice cream funnel and squirrel selling. Definitely, we will be talking about both of those today. He writes on Medium Solopreneur Slingshot, and at martinmessier.ca. He's coming to us live today from Ottawa, Canada. Martin, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Brent. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. That is an awesome bio, dude. So you have definitely an interesting story. You've been an international man of mystery, I guess, in a way, but maybe not so much mystery. You've been very open with and successful in your career. So give us a little bit about you. Tell us where life started out for you. And I always try to ask people in here, they're sales and marketing people. Were you always a sales and marketing person? Were you always entrepreneurial? How'd that develop in your life? Just give us a quick rundown on you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the whole international thing is due to 2 things. The first thing is that I'm half Canadian and half Brazilian. So my mother is Brazilian, so we'll get to that in just a second. And my father, I grew up basically with a father in the foreign service. So I grew up in Africa and Haiti and Vietnam and, Brazil, South America, all of that. So yeah, so that kind of took me around. But as far as being entrepreneurial, I'd say the rebel blood is really what breeds an entrepreneur. Is just like, the guy who's always, man, this is stupid. I think I could do this better. Is where all of that comes from. But yeah, very quickly I got drawn into sales and marketing because it seems to be the linchpin of making businesses work. And I started cutting my teeth in Washington, D.C., working in telecom and marketing departments. And the thing is that I went to college for economics, and after finishing my bachelor's, unsatisfied with the complete uselessness of my degree, at least I thought at the time, I was like, let me get a master's in this. And I've never worked in economics a day in my life. And so after a couple of years, I realized that I need to create my own, like, let's say, marketing MBA. And I really started studying the classics like Reese and Trout. And then after that, went into direct marketing and, the typical marketing gurus like Dan Kennedy and all the people that we see in digital marketing today. And that's what really got me going. And after that, I moved to Brazil, met my wife in 2003, moved to Brazil. And then obviously the entrepreneurial blood was there. And I decided to found a chain of bakeries on the back of one of her amazing recipes. And yeah, we built that. And, everybody was telling us, yeah, it takes, about 6 months to a year to get going. And within 2 weeks, we were at like revenue cruising speed.
Wow.
So yeah, it was very quick. And I think it's one of these really bad things that happens because when it happens quickly, you start believing that everything you touch turns into gold. And you start making stupid decision after stupid decision. Yeah, the next one, that was a fluke, so let's move on. And so after a lot of those, we finally got things stable. And then our kids got to an age in 2019 where Brazil was no longer the most hospitable place for them to keep growing up as they became teenagers. So that's when I decided to bring everybody to Canada. And we arrived just in time for COVID lockdowns. So you can't think of a better time to immigrate anywhere.
Wow.
And yeah, so yeah.
Man, that is a great story. And you know, we always kind of talk about that on this show. Of course, this is hosted on the radioupdate.com blog. So we tailor a lot of stuff towards, you know, people getting sales in radio, which I think has always been kind of a tough job, but I think it's tougher these days because radio is kind of in an identity crisis. But and we have this. There's always, I don't know if it's tension is the right word, but there's this divergent path of which way to go in sales and marketing, especially when maybe with radio, is like, do you go the Dan Kennedy way with a direct response, or do you go the Reese and Trout way with the branded marketing, the immutable laws of branding and marketing, right? And I'm so glad you mentioned them because so few people really even know about them today, and I think they're guys that are worth really digging into again and studying. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, here's a plug for everybody, regardless of what school of marketing or sales you're from. Read the book Bottom Up Marketing by Reese and Trout. Everybody knows positioning. People have heard about marketing warfare, but the book that really hit me in the gut was Bottom Up Marketing. And what the book says is that you need to build your marketing strategy based on a sales tactic that works. And it took me a long time to integrate that. But what Reese and Trout were saying essentially is that you need to figure out something that actually works in the real world. And when you find something that people respond to in reality, then you orchestrate your strategy around that. Let me bring maybe a sports metaphor that's going to help you understand that. Is, let's say you've got a player on your team. Let's take basketball, for example, who's an amazing three-point shooter. You don't build a grand strategy and then try to figure, okay, here we can shoot a three-pointer and then here we can do free throws. No, you've got a great three-point shooter. You orchestrate the entire team around getting that guy shots. And that's what ultimately helps you win games.
Yeah, and the thing I really like about that too is that makes total sense. You give the good player the ball. And man, on a side note, it's always frustrating when you go to a game and that guy's lighting up the first half and nobody ever passes him the ball the whole second half. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But you know, to really implement that approach, you have to first find out the thing that works. And you have to, and I don't think a lot of marketers really take, or even salespeople take the time to do that. You put in the reps, you try all the different things. I think people try something, they'll try one thing, and no, direct response marketing doesn't work. We tried that. It's a science, right? You're running experiments. You're doing test, you're doing A/B testing, and you keep running stuff out there to see, okay, did this headline work? Okay, what's the best response to this objection? You know, all those things seem to be the way to do that. Is that something that you kind of did naturally? You were like, okay, I'm just going to really dive in and figure this out? Or was it just kind of an aha moment one day where you're like, okay, I said something different or I did something different and this really clicked with people?
So here's the thing, and this could be a good segue into the ice cream funnel, which ultimately, you know, we can get into the actual mechanics of the ice cream funnel, but what I want to invite our listeners to realize is just how much inner wisdom they have that they can tap into. And that's ultimately where the ice cream funnel was born, because I've always been a modeler, and that's where we tap into Tony Robbins and NLP, always trying to look at what works, and that's what led me to study the greats. And to a certain extent, I wasn't always able to make these things work for me. And yet, what I realized is I had this huge success in my offline business very, very quickly. So obviously I understood something. And online, I was just trying to, like, why is this not working? I'm doing what all the guys say that I should do, and it wasn't working. And ultimately, what I realized is that there's a principle that I can see when I go into brick and mortar shops. And the principles of psychology that operate there are valid anywhere. And what I started noticing is that I don't need to go to gurus to understand how to do marketing. I have everything I need in my own experience. And I think everyone knows that. And the thing that we all know is that we're all constantly buying. Constantly. Right. Like all of us on a day-to-day basis, we're buying and no one's selling us anything. And no one's, I mean, and so once I realized that, it's like, oh, so it's like everyone's talking about a sales process when perhaps we should be looking at buying experiences because people are just constantly buying. So what am I trying to do here? And am I getting in my own way as I'm trying to persuade people? And so from that point, I started backing into the idea that if someone's checking out my website or if someone walked into my Empada store, I mean, the likelihood is that they're interested in buying an Empada. And the only thing that I'm going to do is either make that easy or get in my own way. So that's when the ice cream funnel evolved because my wife, back in 2012, wasn't into marketing at all. And I'd show her like my long form copy sales letter. My wife's Brazilian at the time, like didn't speak any English, didn't speak any French. I'd show her my long form sales letter. She'd look at it, she'd go, who's going to read this crap? You know? Who's going to read this? Well, and I told her, it's like, well, that's how it's done. You know, that's how people, you know, sell and buy. She goes, no one's going to read this, you know? And so I was like, okay, well, I just dismissed it. It's because she doesn't know, right? That's But lo and behold, there was so much wisdom in what she was doing because when I got back to Canada, we have this phenomenal gelato place here in Ottawa. It's called Stella Luna. They've won international prizes.
Oh, wow.
Just amazing, amazing gelato. And that's really when I got my big aha moment because online they always tell you, it's like, capture the email because otherwise, like, you don't have the audience. You don't own the audience. So capture the email as fast as you can. And yet, I spent loads of money on gelato without ever giving my email away. And then I started asking myself, it's like, okay, this is very odd. And then this thing happened. They have a rotating menu there. So the gelato flavors change. And they have this coconut sorbet that's absolutely unbelievable. And I realized it's like, I need to know when it's on the menu so I can come here. And I begged the owner, please take my email address so you can let me know. And that's the point where I was like, well, this entire thing is inverted, right? My own experience is showing me that if the customer drives the request for information instead of having a lead magnet, you know, it's like the buying experience and the customer experience is just night and day way better. And so and then I started noticing, like every time I go to the Gap to buy khakis or whatever, it's like they ask me to give my email address. And I thought to myself, I'll give you guys money, but I won't give you guys my email address. And that's when this piece of the ice cream funnel fell in place. It's like, it's money first, communication second. It's like your email address is more important than your cash. And then one day I decide, well, let me give them my email address and see what happens. Like 4 promos a day in my inbox, which I quickly canceled and unsubscribed from. So at that point, that's when I realized that we just buy constantly. And if we're not pestered and we're interested in things and we're offered fair deals, people will buy all day long. And that's really where the ice cream funnel comes from. It's just from observing my own buying experience and noticing how in customer relationships with companies, companies have the illusion that their customers have or want a relationship with them, and they don't.
Right.
Like I couldn't care less. Like the other day, I noticed this. I was at Walmart just buying a couple supplies. I was having friends over for dinner, and I needed supplies for that dinner. And I realized that my journey was my customer dinner. Mm-hmm. And Walmart was relevant to me insofar as they were able to provide me with accessories in my journey. And that was the extent of it. I really don't care about Walmart at all ever. I don't want to hear about their deals. I don't want to know anything. But to the extent that I know that when I have a customer, I have a dinner with friends at home, they can help me in making that happen, I keep going there. And then that's when I realized it's like customers all are living their lives. They do not care about our businesses at all, at all. And in a sense, it was incredibly freeing for me to realize that, because we worry so much about our internal processes and all of that. And yeah, that's important for efficiency, but they're not important to our customers. So if we understand their journey, what they're trying to accomplish, we can just be there just at the right place at the right time, and then just let them be. And it becomes light. What do you think?
No, that was really good, and there's a lot to unpack there. That's very, a lot of stuff that is very true. So then the game not only do we think we have to have a relationship with our prospects, I think, but sometimes, I mean, you don't have to convince somebody to get gelato. You know, you're not going up there and making the case for gelato. I mean, if they're, like you said, if they came into your bakery, they were there because they wanted something to bake you. You didn't have to do a whole sales process and break down everything and make it overly formal, and which completely shifts the game of marketing, which is what I really like about, I think, both of your things, which they seem highly integrated. The ice cream funnel, which is kind of what you just described. By the way, you have a book on this, the ice cream funnel. Is it icecreamfunnel.com people can go to get the book?
Yeah, people can get the book at icecreamfunnel.com. It redirects to my main website, but it just makes it easy.
Perfect. And also, so ice cream funnel, and you also talk about squirrel selling, which I think, which fascinates me, because it really is, it's really understanding a complete understanding of the whole big picture, you know, of like, and from my understanding of squirrel selling, from what I've read, is that, you know, you don't just go in the park and pick up a squirrel and try to start feeding it. You give it, you lay one little nut out there. You don't have to convince the squirrel that he's going to like it. You just kind of lay it out there, put it in front of him, and then he eats it, and then he starts seeing you as the source for that sustenance, for that fulfillment, for all that. So I guess that really shifts everything a lot. And then that becomes the game then, right? At that point, just putting yourself out there, all of marketing becomes that. It's just really, you do have to make yourself known. You do have to make yourself aware. You do have to let people understand exactly what you can offer them. But beyond that, it's kind of just stay out of the way, right?
Well, check this out. I mean, you mentioned squirrel selling. So that's another story. I realized I learned this lesson by just going to the park and feeding squirrels. And here's the thing. Squirrel's hungry, and I've got peanuts, and they're free. And I have them. The squirrel knows I have them, and he still will not come and get them. Why? Because the squirrel perceives me as a threat, or as a potential threat. So the process, once again, you see, like the squirrel getting the peanuts, in my opinion, is people buying. Mm-hmm. My entire process is helping the squirrel understand that I am not a threat. And then the way that it works is I just toss the peanuts farther and farther away from far enough from myself that the squirrel feels comfortable coming and picking it up and understanding that it's not going to be under threat. Then I toss the peanut a tiny bit closer. Squirrel comes closer. Nothing happens. Martin's not going to get me. A little closer. And we get to the point where the squirrel can pick up the peanut right from my hand. The squirrel will walk onto my hand, grab the peanut, and go away, and feels completely comfortable with me. And so what I realized at that point is that sales is really about risk. That's really the key element of sales, because if you say the wrong thing or make the wrong move, the squirrel runs away. And I see it constantly in my DMs, is just someone will make me aware of the peanut. I'm like, interesting. Click over it, look at it, and then they start pestering me in the DMs. Don't you have a website? Don't you have all the info that I need to book a meeting? If I need to talk to you, I can get a hold of you. If I'm not getting a hold of you, it's because I don't want to talk to you. And you pestering me constantly in that way just reaffirms the fact that you don't care about me. You got a quota to meet. And that's not my problem, buddy. That's your problem. That's you and your management problem.
Yeah, and so that's very good. First of all, and the thing is, how then do you break that down? So I think we get into the real nuts and bolts of it. So, what can people do today in marketing and in sales, online and offline? What are the things that they do to make people feel comfortable?
To me, the biggest thing is removing. Number one is removing all of these, I'd say, alarm triggers or threat signals that people already recognize. It's like when you see that form, fill out this form with your email. In my opinion, like everybody already knows what's coming. Mm-hmm. It's not needed.
Right.
Second thing is if you make it abundantly clear how people can get a hold of you, they will. Just like you did. You were able to get a hold of me, no problem. I don't think you had any issues. So that's the first piece, is just removing those threat signals. Number two is everybody talks about content today. And I think that word is very imprecise and misleads people. And what I think that people need to do is just send out signal. Send signal, kind of like a lighthouse. What a lighthouse does on a cliff is send out signal. To most people that live on land, that signal is pretty irrelevant. I mean, maybe they indicate, okay, the lighthouse there, you can use it to orient yourself. But to a ship that's at sea, lost, looking for land, especially, in prior years, like, oh, this is what we're looking for. There's land here. And what you're doing is you're just sending out signal. And the signal is meant to be received by the people who are desperately looking for you and can't find you. Because that's the thing. The ship will come to the lighthouse. The lighthouse is not sending signal, hey guys, come here. It's just, we're here. Just like when you're driving on the highway and you see the big yellow M,
right, right.
The reason why the totem is so high is because you're driving, kind of hungry, need to do a bathroom break. Let me exit. I'll go there. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So a couple, we do a lot of B2B marketing talk on this show and sales talk. So if you were a rep at a radio station and your job is to sell advertising for local people in your town, and then your job also as the salesperson, usually it happens as ad execs in radio, is they then kind of design the marketing program too for that. Yeah. So what would your two-prong approach be there? I mean, how would you, as a sales rep, how would you get people to advertise on your station? How would you approach them? What would you give to them? And as and then for somebody on your station, a local restaurant, an empada bakery, I mean, what would you recommend as far as, or even like a home services business, a plumbing company? What would you recommend as far as a marketing scheme to put on the air?
I mean, the key to the ice cream funnel is giving people an experience of what you offer rather than persuasion. I mean, look at what happens when you go into an ice cream store. They just put a spoonful of it in your mouth, and instantly, you know whether that thing's for you or not. They don't need to say a thing.
Right.
And so the big thing is that if you're in the advertising business, you're ultimately you're selling growth. Right? The big challenge with selling the radio advertising itself to a local company that's not currently advertising is that you're one step removed from the actual communication vehicle is that the creative stands between you and the business still, because your communication channel, you can broadcast any content or any creative that's given to you, but you don't have it. So big question becomes, how do I put that taste in their mouth? Do you have a little creative department that could whip up something, a little sample of what that could sound like? Is that something that you can assist the local business in understanding? It's like, yeah, if I broadcast this, it's going to bring more people in the door. Because ultimately, that's what I think helps people make decisions. It's just you put it in their mouth and they're like, yeah, this is for me or this is not for me. And you don't need to convince. If the creative you come up with, they listen to and they're like, yeah, not for me. Either you offer them a different piece of creative or you move on to a different person, because there's no ifs and buts to it. It's just either they're going to resonate or they're not going to resonate. So if they don't, either you offer something different or maybe that's not the right person for you. You know, like a gelato shop shouldn't try to market to diabetics, probably. You know?
Probably not, right? Well, I mean, so much of what you said there is first of all, just makes sense. Is like, start with the people, you know, if you're selling advertising to people, you want to sell to people who are already spending money on advertising. It goes back to what you said at the very beginning. I mean, and I was talking about this just last night with my wife. We are a country and a culture. I mean, not just Americans, but I think the world, obsessed with buying. Buying is our national pastime. Buying is so easy these days. It's digital. I mean, the old days, when I was a kid, you know, you had to write a check. There's a long line to the grocery store because everybody's still writing a check, you know. You had to show your ID and stuff, or you had cash. And that was it. A few people had a credit card. And so it was you actually knew what you were doing when you're buying. It's become so much more mindless to buy. It's been, and it's like, it's such, you know, in a world of buyers, all you really got to do is be a seller and put yourself out there. It sounds like it's like what you're really saying. And I think that's just great advice. I mean, just thinking about some other marketing projects I have going on now, that what you just said really made a lot of sense. Just show them what this would look like in their world. Give them a little taste of what this would feel like with the ice cream. I think it's just a wonderful analogy there. And so as far as the funnel itself, I mean, so you're leaving all the decisions in their hand. It's the exact opposite of, you know, do you ever bring the funnel to a close? Is there ever a call to action, or are there always kind of subtle calls to action along the way, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the way that it works is you let them know how they're able to get more. It's I don't even know if I'm calling them to action or just pointing them in the direction. You know, I publish a lot on Medium, and at the end I said, you know, if this resonates, check out my book, The Ice Cream Funnel, because you're really gonna like it. You know, it's really gonna help you make sense of a lot of marketing ideas that you may have heard, and it's also gonna help you fix or resolve some of the issues that you might have been running into. So if you want more, here's where you can find it, and that's it. You know, they can make up their own mind, and like clearly it works because people have just been buying the book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah,
and so you're not doing paid ads. You're writing on Medium. You're doing LinkedIn, right? What are your main marketing channels? Just Medium?
Just Medium for the time being, and I'm ramping up for YouTube and all the rest of the channels. But that's sort of where I cut my teeth. I really like the written word, so that's why I use Medium.
Yeah. So how long? Can we dive into that for a second? How long have you been on there, and how prolific are you? And what tips would you have for somebody writing on Medium?
So I love the fact that you asked that, because it dovetails into your previous question about the funnel and how you bring people in. One thing that I would ask of all of our listeners is, what hill are you willing to die on? And that is so important from a marketing standpoint because it's going to give you all the conviction that you need to send out that signal. I'll explain to you why. The ice cream funnel is not the answer. It is an answer, and it is my answer. And I am so sure of it and how it works that Jack Trout, Al Reese, Dan Kennedy, Alex Hormozy, like anybody could come to me and say, Martin, you're an idiot. I say, I agree. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I will die on that hill any day of the week. And so because of that, I understand the signal that I need to send out. And then the more signal I send out, the more resonance I get, the more communication I'm able to generate from it. So the comments that I get on my articles, maybe they're objections. I mean, I have people coming on my articles telling me that I'm a complete idiot, telling me that my advice is dangerous. I don't care. But the thing is, all these pieces of information just give me data for future articles. Maybe I need to clarify something more. Maybe I need to counter an objection. Maybe I need to expand more upon an idea that people are really resonating with. I mean, right now, if you ask me my backlog of articles that I have in my Notion database, 400 pieces. So,
wow.
And growing. So I have a lot to say about the topic forever. And so as I expand my broadcasting base, let's say, into YouTube and start occupying X and LinkedIn and all of that, the tendency is just to be able to bring in more and more people. And that's what I think you ought to do in your own business. Do you feel it in your bones? Do you feel how radio advertising or TV advertising can help a business grow? You do, because you have the proof because of all of your existing customers. So when you go out, it's like, how does it work? Can you share those stories? Are you an evangelist for how that works? Because in the digital age, I mean, I think there's a big constituency that doesn't realize still the benefit of advertising on radio and TV and the growth that you're able to experience from it. So then once you've got that conviction, is what are all the little angles and intricacies of that? Because all of that is fantastic. Like when you think of creative, there's a lot that you can pick out from the radio ads that are running on your network or the TV ads that are running on your network. What's working? What's not working? Like what works really well? What doesn't work so well? And just talk about it. Share it with people, and then people will resonate with it. And then they contact you when they feel it's the right time. So if you want to do direct B2B, and I do direct B2B, what I always do is I have this huge mailing list. I work with a consulting firm. We send out, 1,250 emails per day to B2B decision makers. I just send them to content. Do you resonate? You don't resonate. And then I track who's clicking, and then once they're on the website, how much time they're spending on the article. And you'll know, maybe I'll send out a campaign that's like 9,000 people, like 7 people will spend time on the article. I don't care. It seems like a really low percentage, but those 7 are meaningful. And so then I start I start going deeper into it with them without being threatening. I just send them more peanuts. I just said that big peanut, they came closer for that peanut. Then I start sending more peanuts, until they reach out. They're like, hey, that looks really interesting. Could we get a demo of this? And there you go.
That is very cool. So the method then is you broadcast it out. You find just content with just peanuts, and the ones that come closer, you keep feeding them peanuts, and that's it. That's very cool. And do you do that with any paid ads too, or are you just doing the emails every now and then?
Yeah, I haven't done paid ads yet, but if I were to do paid ads, I do the exact same thing. Bring them to a piece of content. Help them discover me.
Yeah, that is so great. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. And by the way, I think Medium right now is one of the best hook and headline swipe files around. There's some people writing really good hooks and headlines on there. And I'll click on one, and that little digest email thing. If you subscribe to Medium, it's like $5, they send you the digest, and it's like, man, these are really good hooks. And like some of the articles, like, why did I click on this article? It's because of the headline. Man, they're really good. So I always like that for just, man, if you need help writing hooks or whatever, get on Medium, because people there are really good at that. Um, I'm curious about NLP. I read Frogs into Princes maybe, gosh, a long time ago, 30 years ago. And those books, and it has always fascinated me. Can you talk a little bit about NLP and just your experience with it, and then maybe how you got into it, and just how it's helped you or in sales and marketing, if you still draw on it, or what tips you could have for people for using NLP techniques in their own sales career?
Sure, absolutely. What got me into it was obviously Tony Robbins. He was my sort of my gateway drug indirectly. I had a really bad breakup back in 2000, and I went to the bottom of the barrel emotionally, and I did everything that I could, made a deal with God. I was like, if you get me out of this, I promise I'm going to start going to church all the time. And, I was still in the bottom of the barrel. I was like, yeah, maybe I should keep my end of the bargain first. So started going to church constantly. and then God sent me Tony Robbins, and bought his personal power program 25 years ago. And then lo and behold, it's like 2 months later, I'd moved to Boulder, Colorado, and Tony comes to Denver, and I'm like, okay, let me go to UPW. So I go to UPW. I absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. From UPW, I buy his entire Mastery University, and a month later, I'm in Hawaii with him and John Gray and Norman Schwarzkopf and everybody, just learning all that stuff. So I went through the entire university, but then I was curious. I was like, Tony's foundation was really NLP, so let me get into this. Mm-hmm. And so I found a really good trainer, Rex Sykes, out of Wisconsin at the time. I think he lives in LA now. Well, I think he spends time between Wisconsin and California, and went and did a full practitioner. And then rebel style, I just figured out that instead of going to seminars, let me practice this in the real world. Mm-hmm. And over time, what I learned is that what a lot of people refer to as NLP is really the byproduct of NLP, because NLP at its core is modeling. And modeling just says that if someone is able to do something, is because they're running a certain pattern in their nervous system that allows them to do it.
Right.
And I think a lot of what's being sold as NLP is just a product of modeling. So the tendency that NLPers have is just like, everything is NLP. Everything that happens in the world is NLP. But it's not true, because like all these communication hypnosis techniques that you see are the product of Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who were the founders of neurolinguistic programming, modeling Milton Erickson. Mm-hmm. So the way that I see it, and this is not in any way gospel in the NLP world, is that anything that you see that's like hypnosis related or persuasion related, in my opinion, belongs in the world of hypnosis. Mm-hmm. The NLPers are just the modelers that figure out how it happens. NLP is figuring out how stuff happens. It gives you a set of tools of how human beings process information cognitively. It helps you open the black box of people's minds, so you're able to see how they make decisions, how they communicate. You understand how certain language patterns are associated to certain emotions or behaviors. So it's kind of like mechanics open the hood of your car and they understand what's going on there. NLPers can listen to people talk, and they're able to see diagrams of the cognitive processes that are going on in there. So ideally, what you have is if you're interacting, let's say, with a top Wall Street trader, you're going to be able to understand and look for the clues of how they make the decision of when's the right time to hit buy or hit sell, for example. And there you go. That's in a nutshell NLP.
Can with NLP, as an NLP practitioner, and certainly you seem to be pretty advanced in it. Even when other people, the Wall Street guy, even when he doesn't know himself, maybe he's like, oh, I do it, it's just all intuition. can you ask him enough questions to find out, or do you? What would your? Are you still able to find out his model even if he doesn't know it himself?
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's why NLP was founded, is because the way the story goes is that Richard Bandler was an intuitive natural modeler. And what he did was he imitated Fritz Perls, who was the top Gestalt therapist at the time, and he was able to produce the same results that Fritz Perls did, but he couldn't understand what the heck he was doing. And so he enlisted John Grinder, who was a linguistics professor at University of California in Santa Cruz, to help him figure out and structure what it is that he was doing, which, thank God, John Grinder kindly obliged. And that's how the discipline was born. Is really, it's the ability to make explicit the implicit. So an NLPer worth his or her salt will be able to extract, to turn the intuitive into an actual model.
It sounds like there's actually two parts there. So once you figure out the model, once you figure out how this person is, what program they're running on, there's also the, and this kind of goes back to the squirrels in the park thing. Once you know how the squirrel's thinking, you have to know the appropriate response to that, which I think a lot of people have maybe the hardest time with. It's like, even when you can get third party to something, it's still not knowing how to respond in the best way. Is that something that you picked up from NLP, or is that something you just learned from trial and error or other psychology or?
Yeah. No, definitely the NLP mindset is always in the background because the NLP mindset is observe. So, for example, if I were going to help a company distill the model from their highest performing salesperson, the key commandment in modeling is put the cook in the kitchen. My goal is not to have a conversation with the salesperson, is to accompany the salesperson and observe them in action and start noticing the patterns, start noticing what's constantly happening. And at a certain point, that's when I start asking them, it's like, why did you say this at that time? How did you know to say that at that exact time? And that's when you start getting all those triggers that you're saying. It's like, when you see that, you know how to respond. And ultimately, those tiny distinctions, my experience has shown me, is the difference that makes the difference. And I think oftentimes companies, one of the big things I advocate to companies, like all companies get sales training, but every company has a unique DNA. And if your company is successful, if you have one good performing salesperson, that person is perfectly suited to the DNA of your company. So instead of hiring generic sales training, why don't you distill and identify the model that has been proven to deliver results for your company, and then train the rest of your sales team on using that proven model instead of hiring a Sandler or, and nothing against them. I think they do a great job. Sandler is fantastic for people. But once you have your own unique DNA, leverage it and spread it across the board because it works and you know it works. There's no risk.
That is so brilliant. It goes back to the very first sports analogy you gave me of the guy hitting the 3-pointers. It's like, why do you? God, the way you just said that is really good. And that's the other thing too. It's about language too. The fact that it took a linguistics expert to bring this into being, just shows the power of language. I think a lot of people that maybe in sales, their whole range of NLP is mirroring, or finding out if somebody's kinesthetic or audio or whatever, visual, and trying to use the words, and that's it. That's all they really get from the whole thing. And so that your way is better, is find the best, instead of trying to have all your sales prospects diagnose your salespeople diagnose their prospects on the spot and try to figure out how to communicate with them. Find out what the best guy's doing and just do what he's doing. That's such a great hack and shortcut, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. And there's no wonder. It's like it's already working for you. So yeah, you need more of that high performing salesperson.
And salespeople and companies do the exact opposite. They let that guy on his own. They're like, oh, he's fine. He doesn't need any sales training. When in fact, they should be making him the model and the blueprint and having everybody else be exactly like him. Man, that is so really good. That is great advice. Okay, we're sneaking up on time here. So I always ask people this, and I kind of making a collection of curated responses to this. So, and I'm going to ask you this question in a couple of ways. So first, and maybe it is the same answer, but we'll start with a salesperson. You're in an Uber. The guy talking to you is he's getting started in his sales career. We'll use radio sales, whatever, in some sort of B2B sales, and you really like the guy. He's a real nice guy. Y'all have had a great conversation. You're about to get out of the car. You got like a minute, 2 minutes left. What is your advice you give to him? If you could give him one piece of advice that he could take right away and run with, and it would change his sales world, what is the advice that you would give him?
Who's the best guy in your industry? Find him and stick with him, model him or her.
And does that mean, so just to break that down a little bit more, does that mean dress like him? Does that mean act like him? I mean, how far do you go on that really? Or does it just mean follow his sales process and follow his routine and his MO?
Well, definitely follow his sales process, his sales routine, but not the one that he tells you that he does. If you're able to shadow the person and just absorb unconsciously what that person does, because we're so good at this. Like people think that modeling is something we need to learn. It's how we learn to speak the language. It's how we learn how to talk. It's how we learn how to walk. We are modeling machines, and then schooling gets in the way because it tells us you need to understand things before you do them. You do not. You learn grammar before you were forming perfectly formed English sentences. You were doing that for a long time before you had any conscious clue. Oh, there's grammar, there's structure to this. Yeah, there is. But you were speaking perfect English way before then. So if you spend time with a top performing salesperson, you're just going to absorb the stuff, and you can see it all the time. It's like, go listen to top podcasters, and then you start realizing, yeah, I spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins. I was responsible for his this, and that. How did that happen? Sponge. They just absorbed everything. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to just spend time with someone who's very effective at the sales that you want to be able to perform, it's going to rub off on you. No matter what. And then if you're able to just catch those key moments, when you see the pattern just happening over and over, it's like, how do you know to do this right now?
Right.
They'll tell you. And then the world's your oyster.
That is so great. And it as you were saying that, it just kind of reminds me, there's always this weird, I don't know, structure where the sales manager tries to teach the company system, which probably is not the exact same system that the top salesman is running. And the new person, I see this all the time. New salespeople, there's this human desire to innovate. There's this human desire to, you know what I'm saying? That's not the way I do it. They haven't even established a baseline of the company way, and they're always, I can do that better. And it's like, it's in every organization. Is that something that you've encountered as well? I'm guessing so.
Oh, constantly. And, I work with a company where we implement CRMs for companies. And, what you're saying of the methodology itself, right, will get in the way of the top performer. And then you got technology on top of it.
Right.
Well, management wants to implement a CRM. And then the CRM process will get in the way even more of the top producer. So it's what in fact my approach is, what's the top producer doing? And then how do we use the CRM to get all the bullshit work, sorry about the word there, out of the way, or enable them to be able to do the work even faster,
That is really good. Yeah, and that's because the CRM is good, certainly. that's going to make you money just by being organized, because the top producers probably are not the most organized people. That's what I've noticed before, salespeople. But that's a whole other discussion to have. But that is very good. You want it to not break people. You want it to just enhance them, whatever they're doing.
You sit down with the top producer. What's a hassle? Like, what's a hassle in your process? And the top producer will tell you. And then you ask yourself, like, how can I use the CRM to get that out of the way? Boom.
Right.
You increase their productivity multiple times just doing that.
That is so great. And one last question. The guy, and I think I probably already know your answer to this, but to have you condense it into a nutshell, your Uber driver is a new online marketer. He is opening up a consulting business. You have 1 minute. What do you tell him that's going to change his world and help him be successful right away?
My big thing is the question that I ask him is, like, figure out the hill that you're going to die on. What is your absolute conviction? What are you so convinced about that anybody in the world, Jesus could come down and tell you we're wrong, and you'd be like, it's like, man, I love you. I'm beholden to you, but I just feel it in my bones. So I think your dad's the one that gave me that. But yeah, just find that. Just find that piece and concentrate everything that you're doing around that. Everything else is a distraction.
Man, that is very good. That is very good. Well, thank you very much. It's been almost an hour. It flew by. This was a great time. Thank you very much, Martin. MartinMessier.ca is the website. Probably the easiest way to get there, though, is icecreamfunnel.com. Takes you right to your website.
That's right. Icecreamfunnel.com will take you right to the page where I sell my book, and then you'll be on my website. You can navigate, explore, and see everything that's there.
And they can search for your name also on Medium as well.
Absolutely.
Man, that is so great. Dude, thank you very much for your time today. Honestly, I feel we just really scratched the surface of what all we could talk about. It's CRMs and sales processes and all that are very real things I think that people struggle with. So maybe we'll have to do this again sometime. But thank you for your time. I wish you all the best. And we'll see you next time on Persuading for Profits. Everybody have a great week. See y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.